stop coming up with an excuse and just start doing something. Like we have a very big business idea that we want to do that's going to cost millions. We do not have millions right now to invest in that, but we immediately started being like, okay, what can we do that's free? And it's like create an Instagram account, like start doing activities that cost no money. Like what can we do for $5 to get this idea off the ground?
I'm Nate Stevens, and I'm 31 years old.
And I'm Kate Lind, and I am 32 years old. I almost forgot how old I am. That's a real thing.
About a year ago, we were driving to Canada listening to NPR How I Built This, and they were talking to the guys from Airbnb who had created these cereal boxes in the 2008 election to raise money for Airbnb. And after listening to this, we said, I think we could do something like that. And so we did. So we created something called Nasty Soap, and we launched these right before, well, we actually had them ready before the election, but as you can see, we kind of got it wrong. So we predicted the election, and Katie
Hillary's winning in this story here. But yeah, so we created something called Nasty Soap, and it features Hillary Clinton, very triumphant, on one box, looking down at Donald's Sad Ombre soap. And unfortunately, as we all know, we guessed it wrong, along with many people, but and it said nastier together. And so we were faced with this challenge of having 500 of these pairs of boxes. And that was what our money had currently been invested in. So we were faced with this really interesting challenge of figuring out if we could work together and figuring out how to overcome something when you have the wrong product. And we just changed, it was gonna be celebratory. We changed it to this funny thing about we got it wrong. We live in Michigan, which is a state that went red, as many of us know. And so it was an opportunity for us to have a lot of conversations and have fun and poke fun at ourselves, I guess. And it did sell really, really well. We sold about 250, almost maybe 400. 400 boxes of the We Got It Wrong soaps. But it gave us the confidence and also the ability to keep going. After Nasty Soap, it was mid-December, so we really weren't sure what to do, and I personally was feeling really hopeless about a lot of different things that were happening at that time, and the Women's March was getting a lot of publicity, and it was just starting to build up, and what I noticed was that there were going to be hundreds, at that point there were already, I think, over 150 marches planned throughout the entire world, and there wasn't really a unifying visual, and Nate and I are really visual people. We believe strongly in art, and so we wanted to create something, I wanted to create something that would raise money for causes I believe in, as well as unite people all over the world, whether they were wearing flip-flops and marching in LA or bundled up in parkas in, Alaska or Washington, D.C., where we were. So we created this button, and I told Nate, hey, I want to sell a few hundred buttons, like pin things. I don't really know. And I want it to be beautiful, but I'm not sure. And I was really like, I had this idea, but I knew I wanted to raise money for Planned Parenthood and ACLU, to causes that mean a lot, not just to me, but also to Nate. And he is the big dreamer, and he went away and he was like thinking about it. And then he came to me with great excitement.
Yeah, the next day I had Katie come meet me at Starbucks on Main Street, and I did this little 5-slide presentation. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a thing. We can do this. We can make this happen. And I showed her the name. I was like, we could call it Pincause, and we'll do lots of pins for big causes. And it'll be similar to Kickstarter in the sense that we'll have this cool design, and it can be this big community effort to fund this cause. And then from then on, I think we just started doing it. Mm-hmm. That day, we started looking for artists to do the first one for the Women's March, which was the one Katie's wearing.
Just by Penelope Dullahan.
To date, we've sold over 50,000.
of this one pin,
of the
which
one
means
pin.
we've raised over 100,000 for ACLU and Planned Parenthood combined.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think I knew that it was going to be something and I had an idea, but I think Nate really helped me make it a much bigger idea. And I think as we talk about important tips for business people, you're going to have an idea that's kind of like good and you're like, you might have like everyone's going to have hesitations. That's very natural. But I think what makes it really challenges it and like puts it out into the world that it's going to be big is Nate said, we're going to sell 100,000 pins. And Nate says it took me quite a few days. I think it took me 2 days to get on board. But we started telling everyone that we were going to be selling 100,000 pins, not just because it was a crazy goal, like we truly believed that it was possible. And so I like to tell people, take the goal that you've set for yourself and then like times it by 10 and make yourself really uncomfortable and kind of nervous, and don't necessarily invest all your money like that's going to be the end goal, but start planning like that is what is going to happen. And what we're excited to say is by today, we've sold 85,000 pins across all of our pins. So we're not at the 100,000 mark yet, but we still know it's going to happen. And we act every day like that's the goal we're building up towards. So I think that's a huge lesson for business owners and people who are like trying to figure out something is like, take your goal, make it big and uncomfortable, but act like that's exactly what's going to happen. And I would go up to people and be like, hello, I'm Kate and here's my business and I'm about to sell 100,000 pins and you don't know about it yet, but you totally need to. And we had a lot of confidence about it. And I think that was really appealing to people, including press and just other people who wanted to get on board as we were walking around telling them, we're going to raise 100,000, we're going to sell 100,000 pins. Like, you need to be a part of this. And people believed us.
It worked, yeah.
And we believed it, so.
Yeah.
You put the pins on the card so then they can take photos like.
So for each pin sold, the pins sell for $5 everywhere they're sold, either retail or our website or anyone else. And then $2 from each pin goes to the cause. So
nonprofit.
In that instance, $1 went to ACLU and $1 went to Planned Parenthood. So
having to sell a product is probably one of the hardest things you're ever going to do, especially when it's something you've built and created yourself. And I think we've talked so much about it. If you can sell something, not just yourself, which is also really important as like a business person or anyone that has a career, but to sell like a product is one of the hardest things you're going to do. And I think we realized, there's just there's almost no training that you can get in school about how to sell a product. And I mean, my school, I studied marketing, but we were learning how to use like $500 million budgets. And then we were like, okay, we have $500. Like, what do we do? Things were really different. And so we had to be completely, I think I personally always work best with these crazy like time and resource constraints. And Nate and I had to be really creative with that. And I think that's advice for any entrepreneur, anyone, is like work with what you have. We were lucky to have the $100+ that we had to invest in these things. But there's so many ideas. Some of our best ideas have been basically $0. Have cost very little money. And so that's the advice I give is like, I would not ever let anyone say like, well, I didn't study X, Y, or Z, stop them. So like figure it out. And like, there was a lot, we just had to read books and articles. Like the world is so open right now that it's like hard to be like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Like just start doing it and you might stink for quite a few months and then you'll get better. Although there's also things that we know I'm not better at yet, but, and then just keep trying. And then also just like figure out what you can do with the resources you have. And that's something I've worked with people on too. We've talked to people and we're just like, okay, like let's think about what we can do. We have very few dollars. Like what if we create a hashtag? And for our current campaign, we've sent this pin to over 100 people. We've mailed it. So there is a cost of mailing, but sending it to 100 people is $260 basically for costs. It's like $280 total, which is not a ton, but we've sent it to 100 people who have, or 150 now, but they have a combined following of 10 million followers on Instagram. So like it's not a huge investment, but it has very big potential. So it's always just like figuring things out. But when you're starting your own business, like there's a lot of things you're gonna do that you just like don't know, and then you keep getting better. And you will make so many mistakes, and you sort of figure it out from there too. I'll admit, and like vulnerability is super powerful. I think it's been hard at times to know personally that I couldn't do this without Nate. I wish like and there's totally women who could do this by themselves, but Nate is an integral, I think, not just Nate, like another person, would be really important, but then also having Nate has been really, really important, and he has been key to the success of this. And I would say any business partner is really hard to like, this is our, because this is, as you know, this is our current full-time gig and how we support ourselves. So it's really tough because this is like your livelihood, and we're talking about like every decision is like, this is our whole life. But I think that's been important to be like, this isn't our whole life. If it fails, we are competent people who can get jobs. It's not gonna fit, and also we took the word fail out of our vocabulary. I think that's been a really important thing because we've learned so much in the now almost year that we've been doing business projects together, that we can't really have a failure. And our first business, Nasty Soap, was in the news, broadcasted as a failure, which we thought was the funniest thing we'd ever seen, because we're sitting there with champagne cheersing our success, and they're like, these Ann Arbor people had their biggest failure. And we were like, really? Because we learned so much. But so I think failure is going to happen, and you frame it differently. So it's not a failure; it's a huge learning experience. As a woman who like wanted to be able to do everything by herself, I think I learned years ago, but even more so now that it's not, for me personally, it's not possible to do everything by myself. And Nate is an integral part of this business. Like, we're a partnership, truly. Almost every idea and design we come up with and work on together. We know there are times where I default to his expertise, and there's times he listens to me. Our decisions are weighed very much with each other, and that's really, really hard. It's also really hard. We are romantic partners, but that's like, now it's become like 6% of our time together is like romantic partners. And then like 90% of the time is business partners, and like 4% is people who don't want to be near each other. I'm kidding. We've really enjoyed a lot of it, but there's hard times like any business partner. I'll be honest as well, Nate and I, this is like just a general business tip. Nate and I did go see a lawyer very early on. We love each other and we like each other a lot, but we didn't know, like, and we believe that will always be the case, but something could happen. We even actually were thinking like crazy things, but that's why lawyers are involved, that what if I died? And then my family would get the business. So we changed it. We wrote a contract. We talked through all the things. If for one day I don't want to be a part of it, or Nate doesn't, we had all the legal stuff put up. It was money we invested, but it was really important. We copyrighted it, but like, that was a real thing we had to do out of the gate when our business is like still just an idea, and we're like, well, if like it's worth millions, and what happens then? So that's another thing we really encourage is partnership agreements, and like actually getting a lawyer involved, even when it seems like a small thing. When you really have committed to the idea of like, we're going to sell 100,000 pins, start treating it seriously and getting the proper people involved in your organization. So we have contractor type people and relationships, but I would say if you're going to work with your partner, your life romantic partner, like really figure it out first, because it's not easy, but we make it work.
Yeah, it's good to talk about, like, have some sort of guidelines, some sort of rules, like just like keep communicating about like when you want to talk about it, or like, you know, if you want to have like a day where it's like no business talk or stuff like that. Like, as long as you keep talking about it, I think it works. It works well, and I think we're both suited for this. I think we're both suited to kind of work for ourselves, and so that helps a lot that we both enjoy doing it. So.